Hi, this is Linda West with Living Live, and today I'm so excited to introduce you to Jeremy Lasman. Now, if you are an entrepreneur who is maybe you're like, that there's a higher level you can get to, but you're not sure how to get there. You're not sure if you're actually operating at peak performance. Today, Jeremy is going to share that with us. So I would like you to share this video out to anybody that you know who is an entrepreneur and you're like, you know what, they're not really pulling their weight. I know they can do better than this. Please share this video with them because we want to make sure we get this information into their hands. If you're interested in connecting with Jeremy, please go to jeremylasman.com and show that up on the screen there. I'm going to introduce to you, his bio here. He has a very impressive bio, and so we're going to get into his bio, but also I want to get into mainly like how, a couple tips that can help you get into your high performance mode so that you can make the best of your time and you can impact and help the most amount of people. So Jeremy has been called the Einstein of the new age. We're going to ask him what that means in just a minute because of his imaginative approach to personal development and human advancement that blurs the line between science and art. Jeremy is a former SpaceX technologist who, among his various hats, helped produce the live launch webcast. He subsequently created a comic book franchise called Mania, which utilizes mindful entertainment to raise consciousness. He now operates his business, Spiritual Imagination Technologies, to facilitate individuals, organizations, governments, and work groups into the next level of human flow. He helps high performers discover where they are still hiding from themselves and how to get out of their own way to actualize their highest vision. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Really excited to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Very excited.
Now, remember, please share this out if you know any entrepreneurs that are looking to maybe elevate their level of what they're doing right now, or people who are maybe they're already operating at a high level, but they want to even go higher. So go ahead and share this out with them. So, Jeremy, first of all, I want to get into the how did you get the name Einstein of the New Age?
So first off, we share the same birthday, and so that was kind of like a common connection. No, Einstein and no, the Einstein. Yeah, okay. We're both born on Pi Day, March 14th. So I've always had like kind of a connection based on that, doing a bio as a kid on him. But the connection comes through what I feel like my work is, and the research that I've done to really find what my work is, which really stands on the shoulders of his discoveries. So the way that I like to kind of explain it is he took the realm of physics, mathematics, and developed his theories that changed the paradigm for the way people understood time and space and relativity. And I'm standing on his shoulders and really pushing the imagination further. And I have my own theories that take the quantum mechanics and blurs it into spirituality for empowerment and for helping people understand their freedom and perform better.
That's awesome. Well, what made you decide to, oops, I did the wrong thing there. Hold on. There we go. I'm back. What made you decide to get into the area that you're doing right now? Because, that's really interesting that you're taking, the Einstein stuff and up-leveling it really is what you're doing yourself, right? So you took it just to like a whole new level, which is kind of interesting because, he was so brilliant, right? And then you took what he had and then you're making even more brilliant, which is awesome. Yeah. But what made you decide to do that?
It was my natural curiosity. I think the way that we all kind of start the personal development journey is I want to fix myself. And so there was things that I couldn't accept about myself. And so after an awakening experience and seeing something that was beyond what I had ever experienced, I wanted to understand it. I'm that type of personality where I really need to understand the mechanics before I can really trust it or want to use it myself. And so I saw something and I knew that there was something there. And so it became about, okay, what's going on here in terms of the human mind, consciousness, the meaning of life, all of those big picture things. I want to try not to be too high concept about it, but it really is understanding the imagination or understanding the child's imagination and really empowering it.
Okay, and first, before we go any further, if you have any questions, please put your questions in the comments below, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and type #replay. If you're watching live, go ahead and type #live. And go ahead and put your comments below. If you're watching live, then we'll ask those questions while we're live here. Otherwise, Jeremy will respond to your questions at a later date. And I want to mention, I want to talk about something you mentioned during this right now, and that was your awakening. Now, I keep hearing the word awakening lately. It just seems to be either I'm surrounding myself with more people who are having this awakening, or it's that more people just are having an awakening. Can you please share with the audience, what an awakening is and how you can recognize if you're going through one, how you can recognize that you're going through one, and then what can they expect on the other side?
That's a great question. So I would say an awakening, well, I'll speak in my experience. It was this point in my life where I had just graduated college, and I had realized just how much of a monorail I was on in terms of being blinded from any type of choices, or keeping myself just really blinded. And all of a sudden those things came off, and I saw all of these possibilities that I wasn't aware of before, and all of these questions and introspections, just wanting to make sense of why I felt like I didn't belong. And an awakening is kind of like a glimpse. You're shown, like, you've probably heard, like, a near-death experience, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're taken to a place that is not of this world, and then they come back and they have this all new perspective on gratitude and love and connection, and that really is not like the old. It completely dismantles how you've been living, and it brings up a lot of, like, unknown. And the awakening process is like facing that and seeing what the message is, seeing how it's communicating to you, and seeing what your true desire actually is. Because sometimes it's like you've been living in the materialistic, and you're shown the glimpse of the spiritual, and you were a skeptic before, but then it's like, but I saw it, I actually felt it. And it puts into question your motives, your motivations, and really realigns you with your heart in a way.
Well, that begs another question, is that when that happened, or not only for you, but anybody else you may have spoken with who has gone through an awakening, is there, like, when you have that, it's like all of a sudden, I guess we could call it an aha moment, right? Or you just, whatever we want to call it. But in that moment, did you have any fear? Was there any fear associated with, like, okay, now my whole world has been changed. And because my whole world has been changed, some of the people in my life, they're not going to understand this. Like, how can I talk to them? Who do I talk to? Who do I turn to? Did you have any thoughts like that going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I was already kind of a loner outcast kind of kid. And I am an only child, so I was kind of used to the dealing with myself. But I did start seeing a therapist around that time. And so he helped me kind of like focus in on looking inside, and I started reading a bunch of books, personal development and spirituality. And from there, yeah, it's a lot of fear, because if you want to look at the awakening experience, everyone has their own experience of it. But for me, you're shown the infinite doors of perception. For me, it was like all of these doors are right in front of me, and I was just kind of like this, like, tiny kid in front of, like, all of that, and I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to move. I didn't know how to go through one. I didn't know how to pick one. And there was like this indecision, and that's where I was like, I need to understand this before I could use it, because that was the imagination. it's beyond the human mind can't conceptualize it, but it's the infinite doors of perception. And so I needed to learn how to maneuver and find my power to be able to not be afraid of all of that choice, all of that power.
Wow. And I actually, so the reason I'm asking these questions is because I think I may have experienced an awakening as you're explaining it, but never knew what it was. Like I wouldn't like me, myself, don't call it an awakening. I'm just like, I've changed my life. Like I've seen new opportunities. What did you call it? Infinite.
The doors of perception is a way to put it.
Infinite doors of perception. And I love that because it really is infinite. We're the only ones who limit ourselves. And so once we can see that really it is infinite what we can do, opening our imagination to possibilities, then our life can change. So how do you help people? Like say people are going through a situation where they're unsure about what they're doing and trying to get clarity on their life and helping them to discover their own infinite possibilities.
So that's where my work comes in, which I call imagination technology. And that's the way that I help people. First off, giving them the space to actually see what it is that they're up against. Because very much when we're stuck in fear, it's that we're not willing to actually look at the monster right in front of us. And we're just in that cowering mode. So first off, it's the space. And then the most important question that I ask is, how much time is contained in your struggle, in your fear, in your whatever it is you're up against? How much time is contained in it? So like I said, with the connection with Einstein and time relativity, I bring that into personal development and I help people see how much time they're actually carrying. Because if you look at stress, if you look at anxiety, if you look at fear, and you ask yourself how much time is contained, you're starting to zoom back into awareness to actually see energy in a new way. So let's take like stress, for example. You're worried about something that is 30 days down the line, you're stressing about it. So when you ask yourself how much time is contained, you're like, okay, so there's 30 days in this thought. And all of a sudden now you see the container of it and you're given more space, and now you see a choice. Because the way that I share my theories to get people to the timeless is upgrading their paradigm from the linear mindset, is past, present, future is just one timeline, to get them into taking those things and bringing them closer and closer, clearing the time to where they're present and in their power and in alignment.
That's so interesting. Well, there's something that I do. It's a little technique I use that it's not exactly in the lines of this, but something that helps me through like small kind of fearful situations. Because, for me, at least I have small fears and then I have huge fears, So some of the small fears I have might be like, for example, sending an email to somebody who I'm worried about what the response might be, like something so simple as that. Well, what I do is I ask myself this question, and maybe you can share with me if I could do this a different way. That's what we'll do, because I use it as a timeline. So when I ask myself this question if I'm nervous about it, before I say something, before I send something, before I talk to somebody, whatever, if I'm having anxiety over it, I ask myself these questions. Is this going to affect me 1 year from today? If my answer is no, I say, is it going to affect me 1 month from today? And my answer is no. 1 week, I go to 1 day and then to 1 hour. And then if my answer is no, all the way down, like this is not going to affect me in an hour or even a week, I say, you know what, go ahead and do it. Because I'm looking into the future and saying, this is not going to affect me, so why don't I just do it? Kind of. So that's kind of like a process that I do, but like talking about time, right? Because time really is, I don't know, time is really not, it's not a real thing. It's something we put times on things.
Exactly.
So So am I looking at that in a way that maybe it's because, you know, as a human being, I have to like put a timeline on it or something? Is there a better way that maybe I can approach that? Because I'm talking about fearful situations of, like yesterday, I was very fortunate to interview Jay Shetty. I was a little bit nervous about it, and so I just go through my questions. You know, how is this going to affect me in a year? Well, gosh, who knows? I mean, it's infinite, you know. And so I ask myself these questions. So is there's maybe a better way that I could word those to help me maybe quickly make a decision and then just go through the fear?
Right. So the things that come up for me when you say that, I'm a big picture guy. So there is what you're saying to me, if I'm being completely blunt about it, is you're kind of, the tools are kind of like the band-aids to it. Because for me, the deeper desire that I would want, and this is me and my subjective experience, is to understand anxiety from a bigger picture perspective.
Okay.
Or going to the root cause of anxiety. And that takes the choice of like, do I want anxiety in my experience? And so when we talk about the awakening process and going deeper into your self-actualization and higher on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You're going up the ladder. You're entertaining your preference versus your non-preference. So the higher question here is, do I prefer having anxiety in my experience? And understanding anxiety from you're experiencing this contrast, anxiety, which is negative frequency based. It's lower in frequency. It may be a little painful, a little bit chaotic, like it's not enjoyable for me, right? So now it's about, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, it's about, okay, so I'm subscribing to this lower frequency band of consciousness that is known as anxiety. Why am I choosing that? What is it here to teach me? And then you start to go to the root cause of it and understanding the payoff of it, the whatever it is, so that you don't even need to entertain it anymore. That's my goal. That's how I do. That's the lengths that I go with my clients, is like really to understand the mechanics of these things so that you don't have to actually subscribe to it anymore.
Okay, so I'm having an experience, and then I'm putting a little Band-Aid on it so that I can make it through that experience, that little experience. But what you're saying is that when you work with your clients, you're able to help them so that kind of experience, when it comes up in the future, they don't have the anxiety tied to it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Because when you're in the flow, it's a paradox, because on one hand, in the flow, you're aware of all of these possibilities and choices, but in the flow, you're not actually choosing. It's like, it's just happening. And so when you're really trusting your intuition and trusting your power, it's like, I want to send a message to this guy. Okay, sending it. Like there's really, you're not concerned with your state of, how do I put this? The way you're being perceived by others, because you're in your flow. You're just operating.
Wow. I might have to sit and think about that for a couple minutes. I won't do it here though.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, you're listening to Linda West with Living Live, and today I'm here with Jeremy Lasman, and we're talking about basically peak performance. How do you get into peak performance? So if you're liking what you're hearing, I'm going to be interviewing a whole bunch of other people, as the years come on. So go ahead and like this page at Living Live Show. And then also, Jeremy, when we get to the end here, we have a free gift for everybody. So stick around at the end of the show so you can tap into this free gift. So let's talk about then peak performance, and how does somebody know that they are not operating at peak performance? Because we might all I know a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I'm doing everything I can. I'm hustling and this and that, but they're not moving in it. It's like they're just like the Flintstones, they're starting off the cart and nothing's moving, So how does a person how can a person recognize that, you know what, I'm really not operating at peak performance?
Yeah, it's if you feel like you're dragging something, if you feel like you're carrying something heavy, that's all going to keep your performance down. So it literally is the acceleration, momentum, all of these metaphors: acceleration, momentum, speed, performance. If you just look at the automobile, the flight references, you can see that when you are not feeling good, then energy is stuck. And or it's being hindered. There's obstacles, there's walls, there's blocks, there's all these metaphors are coming up for me right now, but like the river, right? If there's things in the river, it's gonna block the flow. And so with imagination technology and upgrading the human mind to a new paradigm, we're talking about looking at spirit, mind, body as a technology, as a flow. And so when that pipe is really tight and constricted, energy can't flow at high performance. But once you open up that pipe and you remove the obstacles, you're available to lift your frequency to higher ranges because you've upgraded your software and hardware to handle more energy. Is that too high concept? Should I try to bring that down a little bit?
No, it's interesting because the mind, we all have different experiences in our past. So we're all at different places in our lives currently. Mm-hmm. And I'm just imagining, using your imagination, imagining how can, I don't know, I just have this question. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate it. Is, how can you help somebody who maybe doesn't really know how to tap into their imagination to tap into that imagination so that they are no longer stuck in the place that they are right now? So I'll give a great little example. I have a couple different people in my life right now that are bringing me down. They're weighting me down, just like you said. And so I made a conscious decision, actually a couple hours ago, I made a conscious decision to say, you know what, right now, I cannot be tied to you guys, and I'm going to have to eliminate you just temporarily while I get through this process that I'm going through, because I feel like I'm in like massive momentum right now. And so what was happening is, because I'm in massive momentum, these other people were kind of like dragging me back, and I was like, I don't want to be dragged back, so I'm going to have to, right now, I'm just going to have to cut you out. I'm not cutting you out, but I'm going to have to release you temporarily, because right now you're baggage for me. Mm-hmm. So how does a person come to that? How do you help somebody come to that point where they are actually able to open up their own imagination and say, I'm ready, because it really takes, the stuff is already there for them. It's available, but there's something holding them back. So how do you help them get through that? Like, break right through that so that they can then catapult to that next level, and to help them to leave behind that baggage, because you have to release that baggage in order to go forward. So how do you help them do that?
So that question of how much time are you carrying, understanding the scope of how much time is actually in your field is a really important question. But I'll kind of back up and say that this is what you're illustrating here is where personal development and spirituality kind of come together. Okay. Because personal development, the industry is very physical based. It's very much like getting you the lifestyle, getting you the physical material results. And at a certain point, it is about feeling good and all of that. But where spirituality and the awakening process and that kind of other dimension of things that we're talking about, it really comes to that desire for your own freedom, because it's a big, like the desire for self-realization, the desire for freedom, that's the next level. That's when you go into the spiritual, the metaphysical, beyond the five senses to entertain the broader questions about the universe, and the unknown, the mystery. Because once you understand that the mind is basically a cube, it's a cell, it's a prison cell, to put it bluntly, the matrix, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Right.
That is what you're shackled to when you're talking about feeling stuck and constricted, and low, is you're isolating yourself in a box, and beyond that box is infinite space, and that's the imagination. And so once you can either see the door or just crash through that box, that is the line I talk about in my work of reality versus make-believe. So when we're children, we're full make-believe, full imagination. We haven't developed our personality or our personhood yet. And so as we get older, as we become adults, we're taught to build this impenetrable wall between reality and make-believe, and leave make-believe behind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's growing up, that's becoming an adult. What I help people do is go back to that wall, face it, break it down, open up to that make-believe again, and start to experience that childlike imagination and playfulness and inspiration, creativity that comes when you understand that you are beyond the body and beyond the mind.
This is so awesome. And what's hard here is that we only have 2 minutes left. So unfortunately, we can't even go much further into it. But here's the free offer, you guys. I would love for you to
we're not going to 12:45?
No, at 2:30, 12:30.
Okay, gotcha.
She said we can't hear him anymore. So let me know, Abigail, if you can hear him. So hopefully they can. But the 30-minute, what we have is a 30-minute breakthrough consultation with Jeremy. So if you comment with the word breakthrough in the comments below, Jeremy will reach out to you. And, it's really fascinating. And I love this for me, because I'm that person that's like ready for that next level that you're talking about, so that, we can't hear him anymore. Oh, still says same. Okay, so I'm the person who's like ready for that next level, and so I can't wait to hop on my 30-minute call. So I'm going to type breakthrough below, but go ahead and type breakthrough below so that you can hop on a session with him. It's a complimentary 30-minute session with him, and good, we can hear you guys. Okay, good. Okay, so this is very fascinating. I don't think a half hour is enough time. And you know what I love about you, and Abigail actually pointed this out. She goes, "Wow, Jeremy, you are good at explaining things." And I love how I can see you actually formulating the thoughts in your head before you actually say them, which is cool, because I know that you're really being aware and consciously aware of what you say to make sure that it makes sense to us. So I do really appreciate that. Really, really quickly, just like maybe tell us like one fun story about working at SpaceX.
Okay. Fun story about working at SpaceX. There's two. I would say there was a webcast we did, one of the early webcasts we did for Flight 5 of Falcon 1, I believe. And we were set to go live, and one of the pieces of equipment broke, like right before we were going to go live, and we were in a panic. But I discovered that if I held the piece of equipment in a certain way, that I could get it to work. And so I quickly ran to the shop floor where they were like literally building rockets. And I asked someone if they had a clamp. I borrowed a clamp, clamped it to the table in a certain way so that it did the same thing that my hands were doing. And it ended up working, and that's how it was just a funny, like getting it to work at literally the last minute kind of thing. And that's that, yeah.
Was it like a chip clip? I need that chip clip, you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like, no, it was like an industrial clamp, like one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd been funny. That's awesome. So you saved the day.
Yeah. And I wanted to say thank you to, I forgot what her name was, who said that I'm good at explaining things, because
Abigail, yes.
What I feel is part of my mission or whatever is spirituality. It can get very woo-woo and very ungrounded,
Yes.
and very like airy fairy, whatever you want to describe it, and that throws people off. And I was a skeptic before I started this, and so my journey of becoming a believer from being a harsh skeptic was very. It took 8 years of like research and development on my theory. And so what I pride myself on is being able to ground the spirituality in a way that is science can understand it, and so that we can start to bridge science and spirituality. That's really what I feel is a part of my mission. So I appreciate the feedback on that.
Yeah, that's cool, because I too have been a skeptic for many, many years, decades, and just recently started meeting people in the spiritual world and thinking, first I was like, they're quacks, and then as I got to have my own like pseudo awakening, I guess, I realized that this is all real. This is true. And so once we allow ourselves to be open-minded enough to examine it, at least to look at it, maybe you won't believe in it still, but at least, an open mind enough to look at it and not saying these are a bunch of weirdos, a bunch of quacks, because really there's really something to it. And so I just manifested something that I wanted today. I didn't even know I was doing it. And so this stuff is real. So I highly recommend reaching out to Jeremy. Again, go to jeremylasman.com. Type the word breakthrough in the comments below if you would like a complimentary 30-minute breakthrough session with him. And Jeremy, thank you so much for being here. And our time is done today. And I really appreciate your time, and absolutely amazing. I can't wait to have my session and share with you guys how that goes. So you guys have a good day.
Thank you very much.
And again, before you head out, you guys go to at Living Live Show on Facebook. That's my new page. I had to get a new page because Facebook wasn't playing nice with me on my other page. So here we are. Awesome. We got breakthrough coming through. Abigail, so Jeremy will reach out to you to have your 30-minute session with him. So again, if you're watching the replay, type #replay and share this video out so that people can learn what this is all about and how they can too tap into their peak performance. Have a great day. And this is Linda West with Living Live with Jeremy Lasman. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Thank you very much.